Hello and welcome everyone. This is Zishan, your next door agile coach with a new YouTube video. In this YouTube video, we will learn more about what is a user story in software development and why it's called a user story. So before we go into deep and into depth and understand what is a user story in software development, it is important that we understand and observe the patterns and attributes of a story, a conventional story, and then we'll know why a user story in software development is called a story. So if you are a parent, you know that you narrate stories to your kids, right? And don't worry, even if you are not a parent, uh, you would remember some stories that probably your parents or your grandparents told you in your childhood. I bet you do, and you still do, even if you are older, because that's the nature of stories. They stick to your conscious and subconscious mind and just stay with you. Right? So, stories, even a conventional story, it's an excellent tool to make you empathize with the story's characters. So if you're listening to a story narrated by a good storyteller, you you get yourself engrossed into the plot of the story, and you get so much engrossed that you start looking at whatever is happening in the story from your favorite character's eyes, right? You ask questions, you try to feel for the story's hero or your favorite character, right? Or why something is happening, to why is doing something. Yeah, because it's the very nature of stories. I still at today remember some of the stories that my grandmom used to tell me when I was a little small child. And my grandmom, she told a lot of story about kings and queens and kingdoms, and she was an excellent storyteller. And I still remember I used to ask a lot of questions to her. I used to be engrossed in the story, and I used to feel for its characters. I used to ask my grandmom, but grandmom, why did the king had to do something like this? Why couldn't he just do this? Why did he need that? Why did the queen do something of that sort? Why did the kingdom fall apart? All this stuff. I asked a lot of questions even as a child because I empathized with the characters. And there's another attribute to a story, right? So if you are a good storyteller, and it doesn't matter if you are good or bad, right? So you are narrating a story to your kid, and your kid asks questions. So when he asks questions, you know that you are doing a good job at storytelling, because your story is sticking to your child. It's making your child think. It's invigorating. It is acting as a catalyst in your child's mind and making him empathize with characters, which is why your child is asking questions. On the other hand, if your child doesn't ask a question, you get a feeling that maybe your child is not interested. Maybe either they are not interested or the story is not sticking to their heads. You get it, right? And that's the nature of the stories, because if they are impelling enough, if they are compelling enough, if they are narrated rightly, it forces the people who are listening to the story to engross themselves into the plot, to start empathizing with the story's characters. And this is the exact same reason why a user story in software development is called a story, right? Because it's meant to stimulate your mind. It's meant to stimulate your mind to start a conversation around whatever the requirement is. It forces you to look at the world, look at the requirement from the end user's perspectives, from the people for which you are building something, from their perspective, right? Like a usual story. It is meant to engross you into the plot, into the whys, right? It is meant to uh, make you feel for the story's hero or characters and empathize with them. And this is essentially the conversation part in the three C's, right? So it is very important that a right conversation happens for a user story, right? So when, for example, there are some teams who write requirements or user stories like this: build the online shopping cart functionality. So when the next time if you see a user story written in this format, ask yourself, is this a user story? This is a requirement. Fair enough, this is a requirement, but is this a user story? Does this help you empathize with anyone? Does this help you to start a conversation on why you're doing something and for whom you're doing something? No, right? It doesn't. On the other hand, there's also something which some of the teams feel they are doing right, but they aren't. So I have also observed many teams write the story in the right template. They write a story that as a customer, I want to log in into the shopping. I want to add commodities in my shopping cart so that I am able to buy them. So the template is right. You know who is doing, what he is doing, and why he is doing something. Template is absolute fabulous, right? But is this a user story? No. This is still not a user story. At best, this is an abstract of a user story. Now, when this can become a user story? This would become a user story only when the right conversation happens on this abstract. Right? So this template or this abstract, it doesn't signify that the conversation has happened, whereas it acts as a reminder for you to have the right conversation inside the team with the product owner and form the right story which makes you empathize with the story's character. And then the abstract becomes a user story only when you have had the right conversation, only when you have had the right formulation of a story around the abstract. Let me give you some examples on why the template is important and how you can have the conversation around it, how it forces you to, or how it reminds you to have the conversation around the abstract, around the name of the user story, around the template of the user story, right? So I'll give you an example, but explain it with two instances. So just imagine it's 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. and I'm ready to head out to my home from my office. I'm packing my laptop, and just then I receive a call from my wife. Okay, now let's look at two scenarios. So here is scenario one. In scenario one, I pick up the call, and my wife tells me that on your way back, bring a keto carrot cake for dinner, for the dessert in the dinner. And I said, okay. I cut the phone and I head to my home. I go to the bakery and the supermarket to find the keto version of the carrot cake, but I'm not able to find a keto version. So I don't think much because I don't eat keto. I'm not a fan of dieting. So I find a normal carrot cake and I take it to my home. Right? Now, scenario two. It's 5 p.m., right, as I said, and I'm leaving for my home. I'm packing my laptop and I get a call from my wife. I pick it up and she says that she informs that I received a call from my uncle Rajesh in the morning, And he said that he would be in our neighborhood. He has some work in the evening, and probably if he's in the neighborhood, he would want to meet us. And then I told him that if you're coming in the evening, you have to stay for the dinner. And then she told me that I'm making this in the main course, and is it possible for you to bring something for the dessert, preferably a keto carrot cake, the keto version of a carrot cake? And I said, yeah, definitely, I can do that. While heading towards my home, I stop at the supermarket and the bakery, and I try to find again a keto version of the carrot cake. Now, the keto version of the carrot cake is not available, and I'm compelled to pick up the normal carrot cake. But in this instance, I know that the cake is not meant for us primarily. I mean, we would eat it, but primarily it is meant for my wife's uncle Rajesh. And I know that there should be a reason why my wife has asked for a keto version of cake. Because normally we don't eat and do diet controlling, right? So there should be a reason. And because I know the why stuff, why I have to do something, and for whom I'm doing something, it compels me to start a conversation, right? It stimulates my mind to think, right? Try to establish a story in which I can empathize with Rajesh uncle. And as a result of I call my wife again and I ask her, hey, I'm not able to find a keto cake. Is it because you want a keto cake because the uncle is diabetic or have any health reasons? What is the reason why you're insisting on a keto version of a carrot cake? And she said that, Rajesh uncle is diabetic and he's pretty heavily diabetic. She also gave me some background of his other health concerns. He's also high cholesterol. And you remember before our marriage, so he once came to our parents' house and we gave him a couple of apple pies, and he got his blood sugar level shot up so rapidly that we had to hospitalize him. We had to call the emergency services. And so, that's the reason I don't want to take any risk, and let's have a keto version of the cake because I know for sure anything with much sugar would be harmful for him. And this validated my assumptions, right? My wife had reasons. Now I feel the problems that Rajesh uncle has, and now it has given me enough ammunitions to form my story, right? So, okay, Rajesh uncle is diabetic. He has certain high level of cholesterol, and I cannot find a keto version of cake. I'm also empowered to do the how part of what, right? So I look for some healthy options. I find a calorie-free, a zero sugar dark chocolate cake, and I think, is a zero calorie dark sugar cake better? And I think yes, because yes, one, it doesn't have any sugar. Two, it's dark chocolate, which is good for cholesterol. So I pick it up, right, and I go to my home. Now again, coming back to those scenarios, the initial scenarios. In scenario one, I had picked a carrot cake and went to my home. My wife, when she saw, she says, what is this? I asked you to bring a keto carrot cake and this is a carrot cake. Are you mad or something like that? And I'm like, why? What happened? And she says that this is not for us. Do we eat keto carrot? Do we eat any keto cakes? Are you dumb? This is for my uncle Rajesh. He's visiting us for dinner today. And I'm like, how am I supposed to know all this? But then she says, it was your mistake. You didn't ask me. You should have asked me. I'm not mad that I would ask keto version of the cake. And I said, sorry. And also, that cake couldn't be served to Rajesh uncle, so it was of no value. In the second scenario, wherein I brought the dark chocolate sugar-free cake, my wife looks and says, what is this? What have you brought? I asked for a keto carrot cake. And I tell her, sweetheart, I couldn't find the keto version of a carrot cake. And because I knew this is for Rajesh uncle and he has diabetes and high cholesterol, so I thought a sugarless version of a dark chocolate would be beneficial for him. because generally my father also likes dark chocolate cakes. He also is diabetic, and it is better. It is dark chocolate is better for cholesterol. So it is calorie free, it is sugar free, and it is better for cholesterol. And my wife was impressed. She says that, yeah, this is nice. I didn't think of it. And Rajesh Shankar ate that in the dessert, and he loved the cake. So the template of the requirement gave me the ammunition to have the right conversation, empathize with the user, and form the right story. And this is why a user story in a software development is called a user story. I hope this provided some knowledge to you. If it did, please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I'm motivated to make more such of informative videos. Thank you very much, and see you next time on some other topic.